Hi, today I'm going to show you how to sharpen your jointer knives. When I sharpen my jointer knives, I use the Deulen jointer and planer knife sharpening jig. It makes the job much quicker and easier. When you remove the knives from the jointer, make sure you mark the knives and the corresponding slot in the cutter head. That way you can put them back in the same position. It makes setup a lot easier. Now they make two sizes of this jig. They make a shorter one specifically for jointer knives, and they also make this longer one that you can use for your jointer knives as well as your planer knives. I find this more versatile, so I purchased the larger size. Now setup is easy. Simply place the knives into the jig. Make sure you have the bevel of the blade facing the inside of the jig. And then we tighten down our blade. Now it's important that we sharpen the blades in a special sequence to make sure that each blade gets the same amount of passes on the sandpaper. So I put my blade marked number 1 on the right side of the jig. I put my blade marked number 2 on the left side, and my blade number 3 is off on the side waiting to be sharpened. Now they recommend doing this process on a very, very flat surface. Some people use a slab of granite, others use plate glass. I use the table of my table saw. It's the flattest surface I have in the shop, and it works out really well. Your selection of sandpaper for sharpening will be determined by the condition of your blades. My blades have slight nicks in them from wear and tear, so I'm going with a selection of 100, 120 grit, 150, 220, and 400. If your blades aren't in too bad a shape, you can just start with the higher grits like 150, 220, and then 400. So as I said earlier, we want to make the same amount of passes with every blade. So we're going to make 10 passes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next we loosen blade number 1 from the jig and remove it. Now, we want to put blade number 2 to the right side. Rather than remove it and switch it, we simply rotate the jig over. Next, we insert blade number 3 into the left side of the jig. And then we tighten it down. Once again, we make our 10 passes on the sandpaper. We then remove blade number 2, place it to the side, rotate the jig so that blade number 3 is on the right side, and then we insert blade number 1 into the left side. Once again, tighten the blade down, and we make our 10 passes. We then remove blade number 3, put it off to the side, rotate blade number 1 to the right position, and then we insert blade number 2. And then tighten up blade number 2. Now if you notice, we're in the exact same position we started in. Blade number 1 is in the right position, blade number 2 is in the left position, and blade number 3 is off to the side. We've completed our first cycle, and if you do the math, each blade received 20 passes on the sandpaper. You can vary the amount of passes depending on the amount of sharpening you want to do on the blade. Now we simply change the grade of sandpaper, and we repeat the entire process all over again. So let's continue the process. And now we've completed our second cycle of the process. We'll continue doing this with each of the different grits of sandpaper. Now each time you move to a higher grit of sandpaper, it's a good idea to take the blade that's not in the jig and lay the flat side of the blade down on the sandpaper and move it back and forth to remove the burr we've created by sharpening. And as you can see, we've created a really fine edge on our joiner knife. An edge that will cut paper. So as you can see, it's really easy to sharpen your own joiner knives. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay safe in the shop. Thanks for watching.